Forum. Our sponsors this evening are the Lexington Public Library, the League of Women Voters of Lexington, WKYT TV, and the Lexington Herald Leader, who are streaming this event live this evening, and WLAP Radio, which will air it at a later date. All candidates on the primary ballot for mayor have agreed to take part. One candidate uses sign language to communicate, and we have interpreters here to facilitate that communication. He will be given a little extra time for remarks. We will be following the League of Women Voters policies and procedures for this forum. We have randomly drawn for the order of speaking. Candidates will have 60 seconds to introduce themselves. Round one then will be following the order of the drawing. We will ask a question of each candidate, who will have 60 seconds to respond, followed by 30 seconds from the other candidates for additional comments, and we'll use the questions that have been generated by the sponsors. We also have some that have come in here from the audience. In the second round, candidates will have 45 seconds, briefer answers to respond to the same question, and we may also have some very short yes-no type of questions of each candidate as well. And then finally, the candidates will have 60 seconds for closing remarks tonight. Let me introduce to you the candidates: Linda Gorton, Ronnie Baston, Skip Horine, Ike Lawrence, Teresa Isaac, William Wayman, and Kevin Stennett. You can give them all a round of applause. And we will begin our opening statements tonight with candidate Gorton.
Thank you very much. I'm Linda Gorton and drew lucky number 1. This is the most important race for mayor in a long time, because we will see big challenges in the future. We have a growing and aging population. We have financial uncertainties. We have greater competition for our labor force and the economy, and new threats to safety and health. As your mayor, I will continue to do what I did my entire 16 years of elected office, which was serve you with high integrity as well as a dedicated work ethic. As a council member and vice mayor, Fayette County's second highest elected official, I always focused on what was right for people. As mayor, I will be your steady hand who values all opinions and works collaboratively to achieve results to keep us moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Baston, your opening remarks.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm running for mayor to put people before politics, especially when it comes to safety, jobs, and quality of life issues. People deserve a safe place to live in and a safe place for their kids to go to school. People need good paying jobs, and businesses need folks that are trained with the skills of today and tomorrow. People want to live in a city that cares about them and has the amenities that they're looking for to add to their quality of life, like affordable housing, parks, shopping, restaurants, and other amenities. I served as a police officer for over 30 years in this community, with the last 7 years being chief of police. After that, I was commissioner of public safety for 3 years, and I supervised the police department, fire department, jail, 911, emergency management, and building security. I've spent a lifetime dealing with real people and real problems. I feel very qualified and the most qualified in this race to lead on those issues.
Thank you. Candidate Horine.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for inviting me to participate in this mayoral forum. My name is Skip Horine. I am running for mayor of Lexington, Kentucky to solve the city's problems. As a victim of police false arrests and graft, I know firsthand how corrupt the city government is, and I will fix the problem. Nobody on this stage knows better how to do that, and many on this stage have been part of that corrupt government and want you to vote for them while they tout their experience. Isn't it about time you had a city government that treats you with respect and dignity and also respects your civil rights? Isn't it about time that the government worked for you instead of against you? That's the kind of government I will deliver to you with your vote on May 22nd. Your vote in this election counts and will determine Lexington's future. Thank you.
Thank you. Now an opening remarks from candidate Lawrence.
My name's Ike Lawrence. I decided to run for mayor about this time last year when I realized that our debt and deficit was getting way out of hand. We're up to $350 million in debt with another $250 million that's going to be added on with the addition of Heritage Hall, which is $600 million. This doesn't include anything to do with the storm sewers, which is getting closer to $1 billion in the end. So I decided to run. I thought I'd be running against Jim Gray. He decided not to run, and now you see a real good candidate, a number of candidates to choose from. I'm big on the North End. I hope that you all will realize when you look at my resume on my website that you'll see a can-doer, a can-doer of 40 years who's done things on the side after going to work each day. I'm trying to impress upon everybody that the North End, and in particular the East End of downtown, needs a lot of attention versus the South End. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And candidate Isaac.
Thank you very much. I'm Teresa Isaac. I am your former mayor. I'm the longest serving vice mayor. I've been a prosecutor, a teacher, a lawyer, a leader of a nonprofit group, and I'm honored to put my name in to serve you again as your mayor. I want to see the Lexington I fostered as mayor, where we respect our elders and listen to our youth, where we promote and protect what is best about Lexington, our farmland, our small businesses, our caring spirit, where we deliver services equally and celebrate diversity, where we reduce our crime and eliminate our dependence on drugs. I'm Teresa Isaac, and I ask for your vote on May 22nd. I'm the most experienced candidate in this race. I'm the most qualified candidate in this race. I have a track record of bringing people together to deliver results for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Wayman.
Hello, my name is William Wayman. I'm a deaf Christian. I have a vision for a safer, more beautiful Lexington. I want Lexington to be a more safe place to raise a family. We need a safer place for our children because they are our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Stennett.
Thank you, and thank you to all of our hosts tonight. My name is Kevin Stennett. I'm current city council member at large for Lexington. Been on city council the last 14 years. You have a very clear choice in this election as mayor, for mayor. You need someone who has a proven track record of getting things done. Someone who used common sense solutions to fixing our most complex problems here in Lexington. Common sense solutions like the Substance Abuse and Violence Intervention Office I push for. Common sense solutions like our Rainy Day Fund and the first ever debt management plan while I was chair of the Budget, Finance, and Economic Development Committee. Common sense solutions like child mentoring spread throughout of our community. Yes, Lexington, you have a very clear choice for mayor for this election. My message is simple. We can do better, we will do better with me as mayor. I want to be that mayor that you can depend on to get things done for all neighborhoods and all people. I want to be your mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and that is our series of opening comments tonight from the candidates for mayor of Lexington. Now we will be asking directed questions. The first question will go to a candidate, and then there will be responses from each of the candidates, with the first one responding to that question having the longer answer. And so we begin with candidate Baston. The first question is, and it's a tough one, it has to do with the budget. And over the next 3 years, the city's pension costs are projected to increase by $21 million. We know that the payroll tax is relatively flat. What will you do to pay this bill and maintain a balanced budget for the Lexington Fayette Urban County government?
It's a very good question, Bill, and it's definitely an issue that we're going to have to face. As police chief, I led during the worst economic time since the Great Depression. I had to prioritize. I had to do more with less. We still got the job done, and we did it within the budgets that we were given. We're going to have a mayor for the next few years that's able to prioritize, stretch dollars farther than we've ever stretched them before in order to be able to have the quality of life amenities and pay our debts and obligations. So we're going to have to stretch dollars. We're going to have to look for other sources of revenue by increasing the number of jobs that we have here. I also think we have an opportunity in this community to market ourselves as a vacation spot. and bring in more tourist dollars than we currently do. So those are things that I would do to add to the economy, to stretch the dollars that we have, and meet our obligations.
Thank you. Candidate Horine.
I've been looking at budgets for, I guess, 25 years. I've got a number of copies of those at my house, big, thick binders, about 2 or 3 inches thick. You have to prioritize what you're spending money for. So I'm going to go line by line through the budget, make sure what we need to have and what we don't need to have, and make sure that we're spending money where you would like us to spend the money at. So it's prioritized. Also, on the supply side of this, we need to streamline the ability of businesses to be able to start here. Small businesses are what makes our economy grow.
Thank you. Candidate Lawrence.
We've had a Toyota in this town for the past 10 years, and what that Toyota has been is the $1 billion hospital being built and us profiting from that. $2 to $3 billion of dorms being built, and we profiting from that. So the recession in Lexington hadn't been nearly as bad as it has throughout the country. If Memphis is about to leave, then we're about to have a double whammy with give or take $7 million increase next year, with maybe $5 to $10 million less in revenue. I think I've identified these things, and I will identify ways in which I will cut back greatly, knowing that these are our 2 biggest problems.
Thank you. Candidate Isaac.
It's very important to be able to cut your expenses and increase your revenue, and I have a track record of doing that. When I took office as mayor, we had a $5 million deficit, and I turned it into a $12 million surplus in 1 year.
Thank you. Candidate Wayman.
I think we all agree that we need to be able to lower our taxes and make it easier to pay off our bills. We're all facing similar problems, and I'm hoping that we can all work together to solve them.
Candidate Stinnett.
Thank you. There's no one else up here more prepared to balance this budget going forward as myself. I'm currently working on balancing the FY19 budget as we speak. This budget can be better with jobs, and as budget chair and economic development chair, we must bring jobs. We've already started that work with our workforce development office and jobs funds, but when 62% of people were coming to Lexington 5 years ago to work, now 51%. That's a problem. We must help our small business owners, and as a small business owner, I'm ready to step in and do that.
Thank you. And the final response to this question from Candidate Gorton.
Thank you very much. Well, I led budget meetings for 4 years as vice mayor when the mayor had proposed the budget, and that's where we really worked out the detail. As a registered nurse, I'm used to triage, and I know how to prioritize, and I will prioritize like I do in my own home budget, encourage tourism to bring in dollars from outside, and increase jobs by building our internet and our high-tech so we can attract those kinds of businesses.
Thank you. Our next question has to do with crime and violence. As a news anchor and reporter, we see crime and violence increasing. We report it every day. Shootings are rampant in the community. The number of murders in Lexington has been increasing over the last few years. And so, a question, what would you do as mayor to reduce crime and violence in Lexington? There was a record number of murders last year. We're on pace for worse than that this year. This question is first directed to candidate Horine.
Most of the crime that we see an increase in our city is in relation to drugs. Whether it be people selling drugs, getting into bad deals, and then they get mad and they pull out guns, start killing people, or it's revenge killing for whatever it might be. We have to go after the supply of drugs. If you have no drugs coming in, then you don't have any drug users. You don't have any drug sales. Now that's wishful thinking. We probably can't cut every bit of the drugs out, but we have to have a strategy to going forward to getting rid of most of the suppliers and the dealers. We have to cut the supply, and we have to have a strategy to do that. And so the police department, being primarily oriented toward taking reports on everything, we need to take that information and take the offensive against these drug dealers and drug suppliers. And on the other side of the coin, we have to get people off drugs, and we have to have a good structured situation and resources for people that are on drugs to get off of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Lawrence.
As you all know, one of my ideas was that we take some of a lot of these boarded up homes now in number 200 to 300 on the north end and use them as a classroom to get a lot of these truant high schoolers, 15 to 17-year-olds who won't go back to school, get them into these classrooms with their mentors, their fathers, their stepfathers, and learn a trade. And if they don't want to do that, then they got to go back to school. But we got to quit limiting. We got to start limiting the choices of the kids that have too much idle time on their hands. I'm big on getting more parents involved in these homes, getting mentors, and trying to fix our North End problems through that would help the crime and violence issue.
Thank you. Candidate Isaac.
Thank you. I am a former prosecutor, and as a prosecutor, I worked very closely with police. I continued that close working relationship as vice mayor and mayor. When I was mayor, Lexington was picked as the safest city in America. So I would like to reinstate those practices where we had narcotics, homicide, patrol, the detective bureau communicating better with each other. We had better information coming in from the neighborhoods because we had a better rapport between the police and the community.
Thank you. Candidate Wayman.
We need to get people getting more jobs, going back to school. We need to get them occupied doing things and not having idle time to use drugs. And we need to be more strict on finding people who are abusing the laws.
Candidate Stinnett.
Thank you, Bill. It all starts with our children in our community. That's why I pushed last year to get Big and Blue, which is where our police officers are big brothers and big sisters to the youth in our community. As a board member of Big Brothers Big Sisters for the last 20 years and a big brother, I know that's the key to solving a lot of our crime issues here in Lexington, as well as tackling our drug problem and also supporting our police when they need it most throughout our community.
Thank you. Candidate Gorton.
Thank you very much. I've always supported giving our police and fire the adequate resources, first of all, to do their job, but they cannot do it by themselves. We know that crime is directly linked with drug abuse and use, and so I have a plan for a multidisciplinary group of healthcare providers at UK who are experts in opioid use, public safety, our rehab starting when people are in jail, and our faith community to work towards solving this problem of drugs. People need jobs, internships, and as someone already said, their time needs to be filled with activities and jobs and purposeful meaning.
Thank you. Candidate Baston.
Well, I'll be tough on violent criminals and those who profit off the drug trade. Crime is a community issue. It's going to take every one of us to get to a better place than we are today. We have to do more than just treat the symptoms of crime, and that's what we've done a lot of over the years. We have to address the root causes of crime. I will fully support the One Lexington initiative that is currently going on and being run out of Mayor Jim Gray's office. I would support reintroduction of the We Care program, an initiative that I launched as police chief in the Georgetown Street neighborhood. And I'm also going to support our police chief and make sure he has the resources and equipment he needs to do the job that we ask him to do.
Thank you, candidates, on that. The organizers of this forum, as well as those of you who have responded, have found that this opioid question deserves its own set of answers. And the drug crisis, in particular, the increase in opioid overdoses, a serious problem in our community. It's in the tens of thousands around the country, as we know, and it's a very difficult problem here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. What will you do as mayor to address this challenging situation when it comes to opioids and opioid deaths and overdoses? And we first direct that to candidate Lawrence.
I got to admit, I don't know a whole lot about. I do know there's a big difference between fentanyl, which is the main killer, and then cocaine and other opioids. We currently lose about 70 people, 70 citizens, mostly on the north end. We lose 25 to 30, mostly young black juveniles, to murders by other friends of theirs, and that's 100 people. And in 8 years, that would be 800 people. So I'm really disturbed by all this, and that's one of the reasons I am running. You know, we just got to do something about this, and fentanyl is the number one. The profit of the drug trade and the fentanyl use is killing our citizens, not only nationwide, but here in Lexington. And what I want to do is turn that tide, get these boarded up homes, and get these kids back into learning a trade, and get them away from the easy profit of drugs and learn a real trade if they won't go back to school.
Thank you. Now, candidate Isaac.
This is one of the most serious questions that we're facing in Lexington, and so it's very important to get input from all of the experts. I chaired the task force on substance abuse, and it would be very good if we called on all those experts again. I've been talking to doctors, I've been talking to parents, and they say that we must involve the whole family when we're counseling people. We must look at every kind of drug that we can give them to stop them from being receptive to opioids like Vivitrol. And then we have to enforce our street sales program and prosecute to the fullest those who are dealing in the drugs.
Thank you. Candidate Wayman.
I agree with all the other candidates. We need to cut off the trade of drugs and getting the drugs into the hands of people who don't need it. You know, we can't wait any longer to find a solution to this problem. We need to nip it in the bud now.
Thank you. Candidate Stinnett.
We have to start by expanding our substance abuse office in City Hall. It needs to be far more reaching and get into many more homes than it is now. We started the International Overdose Awareness Day. Last year we had over 2,000 people who had lost someone to the drug epidemic. It's not going to be an easy solution, but we need more treatment beds here in Lexington, but we also need more recovery opportunities. We recently brought Voices for Hope to the City Council and are trying to actively help them find a home downtown so they can open their doors for that much needed recovery piece. We do a great job with emergency shelters and treatment, but we need to work on the recovery in here in Lexington.
Thank you. Candidate Gorton.
Thank you. This serious problem is one that does not discriminate, and probably everyone in here knows someone or a family who've experienced this situation. We need to have the multidisciplinary approach. Besides police and fire, who deal with overdoses every single day, we need rehab. We need rehab to start while people are in prison or jail, and when they go to the emergency room, they should be referred straight to rehab rather than turned out onto the street again. We need treatment options, and look to our UK substance abuse people who are experts in treatment. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Baston.
Well, I think this is the issue in Lexington that's causing us the most grief. It's the one thing, if we can find a good solution to, that will really progress as a community. First, we have to cut off the supply through law enforcement. I know how to do that. I've led task forces in the past. No one knows how to do that better than me. I'll appoint a director of drug enforcement and prevention, someone whose job 24 hours a day is to live, eat, and breathe all we can do as a community, not only as a government, but as a community. Reinstituted a regional drug task force that we had. Try to recover our costs as a community that we've already spent in responding to some of these events. Partner with community stakeholders.
Time.
Okay.
Yep. Candidate Horine.
A lot of our drug deaths are because of fentanyl being mixed with all sorts of different drugs. I just read an article, a scientific article about this. It's being mixed in cocaine, Xanax pills, all kinds of different ways. This is the main thing that kills people. What I will do is strategize with the police to go after the suppliers no matter where they are, and I will demand and expect results from our law enforcement people to get the job done.
Thank you. And if you're just happening by, this is a forum of the candidates for Lexington Mayor, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Lexington. And we also we have all of our candidates here who are running in a 7-candidate field. On May 22nd, the primary will eliminate all but 2 of these candidates who will go on to face off in November. We continue our directed questions to our candidates now, and this has to do with traffic and transportation, and always an issue in a growing city. What are the most pressing traffic needs in Lexington? What would you propose to address them? And certainly you can take this over to public transportation as well, if that is an area of concern to you. And we begin with candidate Isaac.
Transportation is always important for people to be able to get to their jobs, for people to be able to get to medical appointments, for people to be able to get to school. So one of the things we have to look at is how can we make our public transportation more user-friendly. I think you have to appoint more people to the Lextran board that are actually users to make those kind of recommendations. Wheels needs to be improved. I know a lot of the Wheels vans have broken down when they're taking people to their medical appointments, so that needs to be fixed. And then we need to look at more reversible lanes, more roundabouts. I was pleasantly surprised that some people actually thought the roundabouts were working and thought people did know how to use them and wanted to try more of those. And then we have to coordinate better between police and traffic engineering, so when there are accidents, we get them cleared more efficiently. Sometimes that causes traffic to back up.
Thank you. Candidate Wayman.
More garages, more availability for parking in this city. I mean, perhaps we could organize the city's transportation with funding from casinos or something, but we need some way to put money towards creating a safer Lexington for all of the people who are living here and transporting themselves around.
Thank you. Candidate Stennett.
Traffic and infrastructure are major issues here in Lexington, and we have to address them. We're starting actually this year. I pushed for money to widen Man of War. That's our biggest road that Fayette County owns, and it's already 125% over capacity as of 2007. So we know a lot of things have happened since then. We have to tackle our infrastructure. We have to be able to have a mayor that goes to the state and asks for additional money for Lexington. We have major intersections like Liberty at New Circle Road that have got to be widened as planned 10 years ago.
Thank you. Candidate Gorton, Transportation.
Thank you very much. I'm a huge proponent, first of all, of mass transit, and did vote to put the Lextran tax on the ballot for people to vote on in 2006. We need to improve continuous improvement of Lextrans so that it's more friendly for more people to use. Continuously improving and building bike and pedestrian lanes. Roundabouts are a good thing. They cut down on congestion, and constant upgrading of signaling. And we have a wonderful commissioner now, and the traffic engineering issues are taken by her and serious.
Thank you. And now a response from candidate Baston.
Well, we have to continue to look for better options for traffic flow. I don't think we're there yet. We haven't found the most efficient flow that we can possibly have. We have to plan as we grow, and we know we're going to grow, but we sometimes don't plan for traffic ahead of that, and we get stuck with traffic issues after the growth occurs. We have to encourage more public transportation. We need to become more bike friendly and pedestrian friendly, and we need to have better relationships with our neighbors in adjacent counties so that we can go to the state together and start planning for and asking for some of the needs we have with traffic flow on our major arteries.
Thank you. Candidate Horine.
I would like to reform Lextran into the model of a bus system that originally started in Brazil. Once they were finished with that bus system, it eliminated 50% of the traffic on the roads, 50% of the cars. And the way they did this was making the bus system basically a subway system without the rails. So it's much less expensive to implement. But a bus would run every 15 minutes from every stop. Every stop would be air conditioned and heated, and also at bus level, so that handicapped people and pedestrians just simply walk onto the bus. If you make the bus system attractive for people to use, people will use it.
Thank you. Candidate Lawrence.
I'm the past co-founder of the Town and Gown Commission, and one of my biggest concerns is this vote that may take place in closing, turning Woodland Avenue over to University of Kentucky. I'm very much against that. At the best, it should be co-owned by both parties. If Woodland Avenue closes, then traffic would be horrendous as we have to drive around UK. We already see what has now happened with the closing of Rose Street by building a hospital at the end of it. I'm very much against the bridge. We've inherited the bridge of Jefferson Street. I'm very much against that bridge closing down and would be tremendous traffic problems if that occurred. I'm big on answering the question of unintended consequences, and I hope that I've answered your question.
Thank you. It's tough sometimes. Let's go to jobs and the economy. Certainly affects all of us. And it's a very simple and straightforward question that really leaves a lot of some room for interpretation. What is your primary economic development strategy for business and job creation? We begin this round with candidate Wayman.
As I said before, I'm a big proponent of casinos. I have several friends who are involved with the development of casinos, and I believe that we could potentially install those in the city, and that would help increase revenues. I don't know if we could be able to get a hold of Donald Trump and see if he'd want to build some developments here in the city. You know, if he's all about the economy, why doesn't he help us here in Lexington?
Thank you. And candidate Stinnett.
85% of our revenue downtown comes from jobs. That's why it has to be a top priority for any mayor to bring jobs back into Lexington. It starts with our small business owners. I'm a small business owner. I understand how hard it is to start a business here, how to maintain your business, and how often government can be an obstacle to keeping a good, successful business going. We have to partner with UK, Commerce Lexington. We already have a business partnership with them. It needs to be expanded. We need to expand our Workforce Development Fund, our Jobs Fund that we helped get started the last 3 or 4 years. And also, we got to work with our Workforce Development Office, expand their roles in our community, because government's role is to make sure we continue to keep growing these jobs.
Time. Thank you. Candidate Gorton.
Thank you very much. So my plan is to form a work group that will be composed of City, UK, which is our largest employer, BCTC, small businesses, Commerce Lexington, and create a strategy for going after the kinds of jobs we need here and we want here. We must include job training and job retraining as automation comes here, just as it's coming to other cities.
Thank you. Candidate Baston.
We have 8,638 businesses registered in Lexington with at least one employee. Most of us don't think of that many businesses. We need to be a more small business friendly community and make sure that we have the support systems in place to support our small businesses. If they can expand, then our community can thrive. They're the lifeblood of who we are. We want to continue with attracting larger businesses as Commerce Lexington and the government do. We have to continue to do that. We have to expand tourism for Lexington and bring in more dollars through tourism.
Thank you. Candidate Horine.
We need to make Lexington attractive to entrepreneurs by making it easier to start and grow businesses here. We need to remove ridiculous government regulations and obstacles. Small business is the forge that creates employment. And of course, we have an occupational tax. That's where the majority of our revenue comes from. So that's how we grow that base. We can't look at someone that, say, is running a taxi company on Versailles Road and say, well, you can't open a rental car business there because you're too close to a neighborhood. It kind of doesn't make any sense, and it's ridiculous, and it needs to end. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Lawrence.
I've never been a proponent that urban county government is supposed to be a job creator or a job teacher. Across the board, if I was the mayor, I would look at all the places we could cut waste. One of the best ways to help the citizens is to cut out all the fat that is going on in this $372 million budget coming up. A big thing that if it works for the federal government, I would propose that we cut the 2.25% down to 2%, which is an 11% decrease, and give the money back to the employers to hire more people.
Thank you. Candidate Isaac.
It is very important to work to attract new business to our community, but even more important is to work with our existing businesses, especially our small business. We want to make sure that government is not doing anything to interfere with their operation. When I was mayor, Lexington was picked the 9th best place in America for business because we streamlined all of our operations and eliminated red tape so that businesses could thrive.
Thank you very much. This is a question that education questions were scant in the mayor's races previously, because those are the responsibility of the State Department of Education and the local school board and the local schools. But the state law has been changed now to make the mayors of Louisville and Lexington authorizers of charter schools. State law allows the mayor Lexington to petition the state to allow charter schools in Fayette County. Under what conditions might you choose to petition the state for charter schools to exist in Lexington? And we begin with candidate Stennett.
I would not, under any circumstances, petition the state to start a charter school in Lexington unless the Fayette County School Board asked us to do so. I believe every child in our community deserves a first-class education, regardless of where you grew up or how much money your parents have. And until we get that focused and fixed, I have no business asking the state for a charter school. We have partnered with the school system the last couple of years to bring career academies to Lexington. We need to expand those career academies. We need all of our high schools preparing our kids to either enter the workforce or with advanced college credits before they leave our high schools. That is what we must focus on. We must focus on our 5-year-olds before they even get to our schools. Make sure every 5-year-old has a book and has a book they can read. That's how we solve this problem. We don't need charter schools in Lexington.
Thank you. Candidate Gorton.
Thank you. I am not at this time a proponent of charter schools. I recently heard Dr. Ron Zimmer, who's at UK, speak about this, and there is no data showing that charter schools will benefit us. And when a child leaves a public school to go to a charter school, any state monies that they have at that public school go with them to the charter school and do not go back. So I'm not a proponent at this time.
Thank you. Candidate Baston.
I'm not a proponent of charter schools, and I wouldn't approve those. A5 programs currently through the Kentucky Department of Education give the local school board and authority the permission to run programs, special programs as they see needs. Those are doing well in Fayette County, like the Carter G. Woodson Academy, and there are many others. Dollars are given to charter schools and taken away from public schools. Without the privilege of oversight, we'd have no way of knowing what they're teaching or holding them accountable. Charter schools can also discriminate, and that's a very important issue for this community to know about. They don't do a better job. I'm not in favor of it.
Thank you. Candidate Horine.
Well, I don't have any plans or support charter schools at the moment, other than the fact that it does give the mayor's office another tool in the toolbox in order to address educational problems. So it's good we have that ability to do this, and I'm sure if the public wants charter schools at some location or some part of the city, then that's something I would certainly consider and look at.
Thank you. Candidate Lawrence.
Whatever is beneficial about charter schools, I would flip it around and bring charter schools and the idea of it back into the public schools. And one of the leading things that it seems like comes down to is charter schools have uniforms, they have some sort of dress code, maybe limited use of cell phones. So, of course, I'm against charter schools. It robs tax dollars away from public schools. There's no reason to have a segregated school system.
Thank you. Candidate Isaac.
I do not see any need for a charter school in Fayette County. I would respect the wishes of our local school board. They are elected, and they are accountable to the voters. When I was mayor, I met with the superintendent once a month just so we could discuss our common issues, and I would continue that relationship as mayor this time if I'm elected. And if there were discussions about charter schools, then I would certainly bring it to the public's attention.
Thank you, candidate Wayman.
There is no need to change our public school system. I am very against charter schools.
Thank you. This question, our final directed major question to our candidates, and then we'll have a second round of briefer answers, but with this is first directed to candidate Gorton. Homelessness. We know that counts have shown that Lexington has generally more homeless people than Louisville. Though the population of Louisville is much greater. How can the Office of Homelessness be more effective in serving the needs of people who are still living on our streets?
Thank you very much. The fact of the matter is that we have been having some initiatives that are now working. If you've followed the news, you know that our homeless population is going down, and that is thanks to the many efforts in the Office for Homelessness and the partners in the community who've been working on that. There are, Housing First is a program that is very strong throughout the country, and that is something that Lexington needs to beef up and look at the Housing First program. One of the initiatives that other cities are using is something with families who are homeless, where they don't let the children who are homeless go from one school to another school to another school, depending on where they're living. And they're keeping the children in the same school, which improves their quality of education. I'm a big supporter of our Office of Homelessness. They are getting some good results, and we need to keep funding them and supporting them.
Thank you. Candidate Baston.
I agree with Linda. We've made great progress as a city with homelessness. We haven't reached the goal, and we have to continue working on that. Charlie Lanter in our Office of Homelessness and now Polly Riddick, both are doing excellent work and have found homes for a number of people in the last 3 to 4 years. We had a mental health or a homeless task force. Most of those recommendations are being put into place. Our mental health court that we have recently put into place in Fayette County is having tremendous impact on some of the individuals that have been traditionally homeless in downtown. So we're moving forward. We have to continue to work with the real champions of homelessness, Jenny Ramsey and some of the other folks that are so passionate.
All right, candidate Horine.
I think it was Finland that actually solved their homeless problem quite simply. They gave the homeless people houses, so they're not homeless anymore. We've got plenty of people over at the jail, sitting in jail, that are not in there because they committed violent crimes. And certainly we could put them to work making small houses for homeless people in a community so they have somewhere to hang their toothbrush and their clothes and a base so they can go out and get a job. This has actually worked in some American cities as well.
Thank you, Time. And candidate Lawrence.
Our homeless population has gone from 500 to 2,500 in the past 10 years. The money we allocate for homeless has gone from $0 to $3 million, so you can see by throwing more money at it, we're not fixing the problem. The Hope Center gets over $7 million of federal money, and I'm a big proponent that a lot of these homeless people, most of whom are not penniless, need to be working, and if anything, we could get them to help some of the young people, since they're in, older adults. They can teach these young people how to do a trade in these boarded up houses.
Time, thank you. And candidate Isaac.
Homelessness is a very important issue in our community. I chair the Lexington Fair Housing Council Board, and we did the study that showed how many homeless children there were in the Fayette County schools. And so we've been proud to work with our Office of Homelessness, with Jenny Ramsey and the Catholic Action Center to try to reduce the number of children that are homeless. I also serve on the Board of Volunteers of America, and we house the homeless veterans.
Thank you. Candidate Wayman.
I believe we've got a lot of people who are available to work in jobs. We need to get them cleaned up and get them working.
Thank you. Candidate Stennett.
I'm very proud of my support of the homeless office within government and its funding the last several years. But we need a family center in Lexington for our homeless population. We currently do not have one where we separate now mothers, children with their fathers. We need to, that should be a top priority for any new mayor, along with creating jobs and those programs such as the New Life Day Center and Jubilee Jobs that are actively working with that population to help them find better jobs, which would also help them get off the streets and shelter.
Thank you. And now this will be a round two of questions, and these will be the same response from each candidate here. These generally have come from the audience and generally have to do with how you would govern, how you would prioritize issues in the community. And so this first question is to candidate Baston, and again, everybody can respond. Candidate Baston, how would you stay in touch with citizens and local neighborhoods if you became mayor? 45 seconds.
Well, one thing we need to do is get government outside of City Hall occasionally and get out and see what some of the real problems are that people are talking about and some of the issues in the council districts. I will take council around to all council districts within 1 year to make sure that we see the issues firsthand and people have opportunities to talk with us. Very important to do that. My office will always be open for communication. I'm a people person. I've never turned anyone down who's come to my office in any position I've been in to communicate and discuss issues. I've dealt with real people and real problems. I'm very comfortable in how to deal with that.
Thank you. Candidate Horine.
Well, obviously my office would be open to anybody that wants to talk to me about any issue. But we also have to have feedback that's by experts. So for instance, when you go and talk to someone in any capacity with the city, are they actually responding to the people the way they need to? I don't know if anybody's heard of mystery shopping or secret shopping, but I intend to have people that go into various areas of government and then report back to me on how they're being treated and how they're being responded to and whether their issues are actually being addressed or not.
Thank you. Candidate Lawrence.
I'm big on leading from the rear. I don't seek the limelight and lead people, have them be behind me. I lead from the rear. One of the ideas I've put out there through various messages is an electronic message board on our urban county government building, which of course I hope it will stay. Any debt-free building we should keep. I do believe in the walk-up window that myself and 15 council members could easily be at a walk-up window. Since there's 16 of us and there's 20 days in a month, there's no reason why one council person couldn't spend a little bit more time with their constituents at the sidewalk.
Thank you. Candidate Isaac.
I try to be very systematic in making sure that I visit all council districts, and so I divide the year up into the 12 months, and I divide the council districts up, and I spend an entire month in each council district. I go to the churches in that district, I go to the grocery stores in that district, I go to the ballparks in that district, I go to the schools in that district, and I make myself available to people who can come up and tell me what their needs are with government. I know from my experience that many people are intimidated to come to City Hall to discuss issues, but if you go to their neighborhood, they will come up and tell you what they need.
Thank you. Candidate Wayman.
This is my first experience running for mayor, but I really enjoyed meeting the people. I know people recognize that I am deaf, but please don't be afraid of trying to communicate with me. I'm happy to talk with you. You know, the more you see my face, the more I'll see yours and we can work together. I'm more than happy to meet the people of our community.
Thank you. Candidate Stennett.
First of all, we need to make City Hall more accessible to all citizens. Right now, our current city hall, if you're handicapped, you have a very hard time accessing our building, not to mention the frustrations people have in finding parking. We're not an easy place to visit, and we need to open the doors of City Hall so that more people can come see us and talk about their issues. But secondly, we need to have an office in neighborhoods. I ran for city council 14 years ago because government wouldn't respond to the neighborhood I grew up in on the north end of town. We need government out in those neighborhoods and someone visible and responsible for making sure every neighborhood gets fair treatment in our city.
Thank you, Candidate Gorton.
Thank you very much. I have a very long history of going into the neighborhoods. When I served as vice mayor, I actually had council meetings outside of government. It was really the first time that had been done. And I want to have a robust office for neighborhoods within government. We used to have a very robust one, and I want to beef that up even more. And also, I'm really big on visiting every council district, which I did as vice mayor and would do as mayor, and be in touch with the neighbors there.
Thank you. And this will be our final directed question. This came in from the audience here, gathered here tonight, and it is first directed to Candidate Horine. How can Lexington better coordinate services for indigent people who are released from incarceration so that they don't end up back in jail for lack of jobs, housing, and other opportunities?
Well, the number one thing that you can do for those people is give them an environment where there are opportunities to take advantage of. You know, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So there's going to be people that come out of jail and they're going to go right back into jail because that's what they do. But there is an alternative to that, and that is something that I even think inside the jail they should be taught, that this is not a cycle that they have to be stuck in, that there is opportunity, there is hope, that they can do something different with their lives. So having a city that gives them opportunity to start a new business, you know, a lot of convicted felons, that's what they recommend, is if you can't get a job somewhere, start your own small business and give yourself a job. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Lawrence.
I was good friends with Libby Mattingly, my neighbor, back in the early 80s, and she ran, I believe, the first halfway house called St. Andrews off of South Broadway. So I went and got some of my part-time labor, which are the, of course, former incarcerated who are out on parole or probation. And so that is long gone over to the Hope Center and to Catholic Action Center as to be in the new halfway house. I'm a big believer that, once again, kill two birds with one stone, if not three. Boarded up houses are the classroom where the incarcerated, the formerly incarcerated, come and learn a trade and get back in the community and feel comfortable that they could find a permanent job.
Thank you. Candidate Isaac.
It's very important to have a multidisciplinary team to work on this issue, and as each person is released, they can have a team that is available to them that explains what the resources are. And then, as a former prosecutor, what I would find the hardest with people is to tell them sometimes you have to get new friends. Sometimes you cannot go back to the old places you've been going. You cannot hang around with the same people you've been hanging around with because you might get back in trouble again. And that's the advice I would try to give when I was in court with the person, to say this is the way you can break the cycle.
Thank you. Candidate Wayman.
Really, all we can do is advise people who get out of prison. You know, we can't make them do anything, but we can educate them. We can advise them to seek employment, get themselves cleaned up. You don't have to feel like the cycle continues. They need to feel like they know they have opportunities, and that's how they will break the cycle.
Thank you. Candidate Stinnett.
It starts with treating everyone in our community like human beings, regardless of whether they're incarcerated or not. And that has to do with criminal justice reform. But beyond that, once they get out, We need to find housing and jobs and help them break the stigma that is carried with them when they apply for a new apartment or apply for a job. We need to help that intervention and make sure they have the same opportunities the rest of us have to re-enter our society. And then last but not least, this summer we'll be reconvening all the programs that are working with folks, whether it be in the jail or out in our community, to prevent this problem from happening going forward. It's a very passionate issue for me and my family, and we hope to continue that work as mayor.
Thank you. Candidate Gorton.
Thank you very much. I personally think we need a different approach. Many of the people who are incarcerated are in there because they made one mistake in life. And so I think that the reentry plans that that will allow them to enter society again need to start before they're released. And those can be in the form of education, they can be in the form of retraining, and they can be in the form of learning what they're going to need to do once they're released, particularly if they've been there for a long time. And I see internships on release as a wonderful way to have folks who are released go into jobs and learn how to do these jobs and learn from companies that will have internships for them.
Thank you. Candidate Baston.
We definitely have to do something to make sure that people get successfully reintegrated back into our community. I think we need to look at some of the success we're having right now, like programs like the DV8 restaurant and Rob Perez, who's giving folks who are addicted second chances, and it's going over very, very well. I saw a program in Chattanooga a few months ago called a Felon Job Fair. Businesses in the community were recruited that were willing to give folks a second chance. It was advertised to people that had records. They came in knowing that everyone in that room would at least be willing to give them a chance if they had the skill sets they were looking for. We have to increase our programming in our own jail too, to give people skill sets that they can use when they get out, so we increase the chances of success.
Thank you. All right, it is time now for the closing statements from our candidates tonight, and each will have a minute to do that, to encourage you to vote for them on May 22nd, and to maybe quickly have something to say about something that was said here tonight that they might want to respond to. But let's begin our closing statements with candidate Gorton.
Thank you very much. First, I want to thank our sponsors very much for having us. And for you, the crowd, it's almost a full house, so thank you very much. So to navigate the challenges of our increasing and aging population, of our financial uncertainties, and our economic competition that we know is here and is coming, Lexington needs a leader who has experience in governing, which I have. Leaders usually have a vision to share, and the one I have is of a better tomorrow that leaves no one behind. I will set a climate of success, accountability, and cooperation. I act to inspire people to come together and act selflessly for the purpose of building a better future for everyone. I'm the person who has served civilly and collegially through controversies in the open and transparently to the public and my fellow elected officials. And I always have kept the public and the greater good as my #1 priority. I want you to check out lindagorton.com. Vote for me May 22nd.
All right, got that in, right? Okay, now, just to let our audience know, our closing statements, that was done with a separate draw, so it's a separate order. And the next closing statement comes from candidate Lawrence.
I have a 40-year track record of in private business. I've been at the microphone before council a number of times as leader, as president of 2 neighborhood associations. I'm, as you know, huge on the north end of town and fixing our weakest link, as well as the east end of downtown. I do believe we need a park on the east end of downtown and not a park on the a 10-acre park on the west end of downtown. I do think we need a change in leadership. We have 60 years of experience up here with 4 candidates, on average about 15 years per person. I don't think things are getting better. I wish you all would look strongly at an outsider who's come up with a lot of different ideas. Please look at my ideas on my website, Ike Lawrence for Mayor. I like Ike for Mayor.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Isaac.
Thank you very much to our sponsors. Thank you to the other candidates for being here and for offering yourself up for service. Thank you to you in the audience for coming. I want to be your mayor so that I can bring together our social capital, our financial capital, and our intellectual capital in this community to serve all neighborhoods fairly. I want every child that grows up in our community to have an equal shot at a good education, a good job, and an affordable house. I hope that you will help me make that become a reality. You can go to isaacformayor.com if you would like to make a campaign contribution by midnight tonight.
Candidate Wayman.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for your patience, your respect, your integrity. Thank you all for being here. My goal is just to make things easier for all of us in Lexington, and I'm hoping that we can all work together. Vote for me, May 22nd. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. And Candidate Horine, your closing statement.
The people that say they have so much experience in city government are the architects and overseers of this broken gotcha government. They have been at it for, in some cases, decades. They are not going to do anything differently. They aren't going to change anything, or they will have already done so. All that will happen is more of the same. If you're tired of rights violations, false arrests, lack of will to investigate real crimes, rising crime rates and drug deaths, waste and mismanagement, you have one choice on this stage for someone that will actually fix the city's problems. Isn't it about time the government treated you like you would like to be treated? Isn't it about time that the government worked for you instead of against you? So skip the rest, vote for the best, vote Skip Horine for mayor on May 22nd. That's lexmayor.com, lexmayor.com. Volunteer, get your yard sign, button, or bumper sticker. Isn't it about time we had change not that you can believe in, but will happen? Skip Horine, May 22nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Baston.
Thank you, Bill. Lexington is a great place to live, work, and raise a family. I've been blessed to have been here for the last 35 years. I want to maintain that. I want Lexington to be the place that we're proud for our kids and grandkids to live and grow up. I have the experience of running over half government and half the budget. Jim Gray trusted me to do that and handed that responsibility to me. I've dealt with real people and real problems my whole life. I doubt if there's a street in Lexington I haven't been on at some point, mostly in the middle of the night. So I know what the problems are in the community, and I'm not afraid of them. I'm a problem solver. I've never been a politician before. I think that's an asset that I bring to the stage tonight. There is no learning curve. I know how to face some of the toughest issues we have. I want to make sure that we have a safe community, we have jobs, and we have quality of life for all of us to enjoy for the rest of our lives and our children's lives. Vote for me on May 22nd. Together, we'll move Lexington forward.
Thank you. Candidate Stennett.
I ran for city council 14 years ago because government wasn't willing to help 500 kids on the north end of town. I've spent the last 14 years getting things done. Yes, experience does matter. Experience that I've had in fighting the opioid epidemic that we're facing right now. Experience helping our education partners at Fayette County Public Schools bring career academies to Lexington. Experience in the jobs arena, working with the Workforce Development Office, Workforce Development Fund, and the Jobs Fund, all under my watch as budget chair. Lexington needs new enthusiasm and new voice at City Hall. We are a great city, but we can be even better with the right mayor. I want to expand the opportunities for senior living. That's our next big crisis for housing here in Lexington. I want to expand our career academies, making sure that every high school kid has the opportunity to attend a career academy school. Lexington's not done being the great place it can be, and with the right mayor, we can be even better. I want to work as hard as you work, and I want you to know I will care as much as you care as your mayor. I humbly ask for your vote on May 22nd to make Lexington better.
Thank you very much. And for those who say there is no civility in politics these days, they have not been to Lexington, Kentucky, huh? Wasn't this a wonderful forum tonight? Thank you to our candidates this evening. Linda Gorton, Ronnie Baston, Skip Horine, Ike Lawrence, Teresa Isaac, William Wayman, and Kevin Stennett. Thank you for coming. Thanks to our partners, WKYT and the Lexington Herald Leader, the Lexington Public Library, WLAP Radio, and the League of Women Voters. May 22nd is the primary. 2 of these candidates will go on to November, and we'll see them again in the fall. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Be safe on your way home.